All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a world that gets a ton of attention, but is honestly rarely understood: webcam modeling. We're going to look at it as a business, yeah, but also as a performance, and even as a place for some surprisingly deep human connection. But before we get into any of that, I want to start with the reality, the high stakes of what this job is actually like. I mean, listen to that. That is the raw, totally unfiltered reaction from a model who goes by that cam girl. She literally woke up one morning to find her main source of income just gone. Poof. No warning, no appeal, nothing. It's a total gut punch, and it just perfectly captures how incredibly precarious this work can be. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll dive right into that precarious grind. Then, we'll open up the entrepreneur's toolkit you absolutely need to make it. After that, we'll explore the art of the show itself, check out the unexpected relationships that can form, and finally, we'll look at what happens when the digital world smacks right into real life. All right, first up, the grind. And really, this isn't just a 9-to-5 job. For so many models, it is a total high-wire act with no safety net. You're constantly balancing some pretty big financial rewards against even bigger risks. And this is exactly what happened to that cam girl. I mean, after years of building a following on one single site, she gets banned. And get this, it wasn't even for something she did. It was because of a comment someone else typed in her chat. As she put it, they don't give a fuck if this is your main source of income. Just like that, her entire business gone, evaporated. Okay, so let's talk about the money, because this is where things get really interesting. When you look at the financial reality of this grind, it's kind of wild. According to another model, Reno Gold, a platform like OnlyFans gives the creator a huge chunk, like 80% of their revenue. But a lot of the big, established webcam sites, they do the complete opposite. They can take up to 75%, leaving the model with just a quarter of what a customer actually pays. And you better believe that 25% has to add up fast. For that cam girl, this number, $300 to $400, that was her daily goal. That's the income that just vanished overnight when she got banned. It forced her to start all over again, completely from scratch, on a brand new platform. So, when you're facing that kind of crazy instability, you realize you can't just be a performer. No way. You have to be an entrepreneur. Success here really requires a whole toolkit for running the business of, well, you. And Reno Gold really lays out what's in that toolkit. Of course, it starts with the professional gear, right? A good high-def webcam, quality lighting, because presentation is everything. But it gets into real business strategy fast. We're talking having costumes and props ready to go, using social media like Twitter to promote yourself, and this one's so important, hiring a tax professional. Because at the end of the day, these models are private contractors, totally responsible for their own finances. All right, so you've got the business side handled. Now it is showtime. Let's break down the actual performance, because it's not random. It's a super carefully structured funnel, and it's all designed to turn those casual free viewers into paying clients.
Think of it like a 3-act play. Act 1 is the free public room. The whole goal here is just engagement. You're chatty, you're flirty, but, as Reno Gold advises, you stay fully clothed. Then comes Act 2, tipping. This is where viewers start to pay for small actions, little reveals, and that builds momentum. And it's all leading to the grand finale, Act 3, the private show. That's where one user pays a per-minute rate for a totally exclusive one-on-one performance.
And you know what powers this whole funnel? Something called emotional labor. And it is immense. It's the constant work of performing positivity, of being on for hours at a time, of juggling a chat room full of different people with different demands, and, as we know Gold points out, dealing with a never-ending stream of criticism, all while keeping a smile on your face. It is an exhausting and honestly often invisible part of the job. But, it would be a huge mistake to think this is all just transactional. It's not. Beyond the tips and the private shows, a lot of these models are actually building some surprisingly genuine, long-lasting connections with their audience. So, how do they do that? Well, Reno Gold shares this really fascinating technique. She keeps a detailed journal. Seriously, she'd write down a regular customer's username, their real name if they gave it to her, what they enjoyed in a show, even little pet names she had for them. This is so much more than customer service, right? It's a deliberate act of building real rapport and remembering there's an actual human being on the other side of that screen. And just listen to how deep these interactions can get. This quote here, this didn't come from some self-help book or a therapy session. It came from a model named Peppermint Dusty, live during one of his shows. He was having this incredibly profound, totally unscripted conversation with his viewers about what makes a relationship work. It's just one of those moments that proves these spaces can be about so much more than just fantasy. But what happens when the stream ends? When that online persona and the offline self have to live in the same world? Well, our final section looks at exactly that, the challenges that pop up after the camera turns off and the real world comes knocking. Yeah, what does happen when the camera turns off? It seems like a simple question, but the answers are anything but. For every single hour spent online building a brand and an income, there are these real-world consequences you have to navigate. Everything from social stigma to those really, really personal family conversations. Just take the story of a model named Andy Anderson. It all started with one text, a single text from her little sister. For weeks, silence. She was just too anxious to even reply, totally unsure how to start what she called the hard conversation. Her story just puts such a human face on that quiet dread that so many performers feel, that fear of being discovered by the people they love. And look, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The risks go way beyond family. There's the almost certainty that your content is going to get leaked. There's the daily barrage of hateful comments online. And then there's just the constant mental and emotional toll of living in a world that can be so judgmental about what you do for a living. So when you really look at the world of webcam modeling, it forces you to ask some much bigger questions, doesn't it? In this world we're all living in, where work, intimacy, and even our own identities are more and more performed and sold online, what are the new rules? And maybe more importantly, who gets to write them? It's a question that goes way beyond the people on camera. It's a question for all of us.